Yo, what's up, guys? Raptors lose again to another top 10 team in the NBA, losing to the Houston Rockets tonight, 113-99, guys. Another frustrating loss for the Raptors tonight, guys. Another fourth quarter collapse by the Toronto Raptors. Raptors played really well in this game again tonight, guys. Obviously there were some defensive lapses in this game, but the Raptors continued to battle in this game, find ways to stay close with Houston, was able to keep it to a single point. You're halfway through the third quarter, but then as we saw again with this Raptors team this season, capitulating in the fourth quarter, completely blowing up defensively in the fourth quarter, not doing anything offensively again, missing shots left and right. It's just another Raptors game tonight, guys, where you just say to yourself, can this team here even compete in the bloody playoffs? Can they even win a round, for God's sakes? Seeing how they're playing against these top NBA teams, guys. Another loss to a top NBA team. Houston obviously being a top 5 team in the West this year, led by Kevin Durant. They don't even have Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams, of course, but it clearly didn't matter in this game tonight. Kevin Durant dropping 29 points tonight, only dropping like 7 in the second half, dropping 22 in the first half, guys. So the Raptors had no answer tonight for Kevin Durant. Scotty started off the game great with 10 points in the first. RJ had a really solid first half as well. He had like 17 points in the first half. The Raptors were able, to take advantage of Şengün, on the perimeter, able to make some shots, drag him out to the perimeter there. The Raptors would drive a few times and draw some fouls. RJ Barrett loved what he was doing with the cuts, same with Mamu. Scotty was making some three-pointers as well, really starting off the game well, but as the game continued to progress, Houston started to make some more shots. Their defense starting to tighten up a bit, especially in the fourth quarter. Jabari Smith had a solid game, so did Thompson. Then I mentioned KD led the way in scoring. Şengün had a decent game as well, not the best game. But listen, guys, at the end of the day here, our bench hasn't been good enough at times. We make some stupid decisions, of course, especially that one pass Jamal Shed makes to Sandro Mamukelashvili in the fourth quarter, where Sandro tries to keep the ball in by making it a back pass over his head there that keeps it in play. Those are the type of plays that I say to myself, those are not winning plays. You should just let the ball go out of bounds, or, Jamal Shed's got to make a better pass there. Even Jamal Shed offensively hurts this Raptors team sometimes a lot. Love his attitude defensively, but offensively, he really hurts this team, guys. Brandon Ingram, 3 straight games with 15 points or less. That's very concerning as well. Even though RJ Barrett has had 5 straight games with 20-plus points. It's like RJ's playing great. Now Brandon Ingram's not. It's like, is he tired? Is he not feeling well? Under the weather still from that stomach issue? I honestly don't know. Scotty finally gets 20 points for the first time in 7 games, having 24, 5, and 2 on 8 of 10 shooting. So that's good to see Scotty finally get some points. But at the end of the day, Scotty did peter off offensively a little bit, started missing some shots, 3-pointers specifically, and, this Raptors team here, they can't shoot their way back into games at times. Once Houston started to control the game and command the lead a bit, Raptors were in big trouble in that fourth quarter, guys. We've seen it too many times this year where the Raptors play a good 35, 36 minutes, but can't play a full 48 minutes, and I'm getting real tired of this bullshit. Every single bloody game against the top 10 team in the NBA, you just know the Raptors are going to keep it tight, keep it close until the fourth. And then you just like, okay, when's the blow-up coming? When's the stupid play coming? When's the defensive breakdowns coming? It's like, it's always a recipe for disaster, and always, when is the big blow going to come for this team? The Raptors are never able to seem to get over the hump in a game. Our comeback from a deficit against a top team in the NBA this year, guys, and this is going to be the biggest Achilles heel of this Raptors team this season. And now, with Miami catching up with them, and Orlando catching up with them, especially with Miami now, with Bam Adebayo today dropping 83 points today, you don't think that's going to pump up the Miami Heat for the rest of the way? The last 18 games of this season, you got to be a fool if you don't think that's the case. You honestly do. And this Raptors team's going in the other direction. Miami's going one way, so is Orlando. This Raptors team here could be in serious, serious danger of being in a play-in, the most ridiculous thing added in professional sports, if you ask me, guys. And to see the Raptors being in a playoff spot the entire season, and now the last month and a half of the season, they're gonna peter down the standings, and find a way to get into a play-in, and that is not even a surefire thing as well, being in a play-in. And the Raptors don't even have a great record at home, only being 1 game over 500. That is another concern as well. You're gonna have to play games at home if you do play in the play-in, because as of right now, Miami's right there with you. They're tied with you. So is Orlando, half a game back. It is extremely, extremely concerning, to say the least, guys. You had no Jakob tonight, no CMB. You had no Trace Jackson-Davis, obviously, because he hurt his finger. Obviously, CMB's got the thumb issue. Jakob had an illness. The Raptors were obviously undersized in this game tonight. You could see it in this game tonight. Houston completely out-rebounded the Raptors tonight. They out-rebounded the Raptors, guys, 60-37. Like, what does that tell you right there? Out-rebounding the Raptors, offensive rebounds, 15-17. What can I say? 22 second chance points compared to the Raptors 5. They made a mess tonight, the Rockets on the board. So the Raptors didn't have a rebound for 6 minutes in the second quarter, for God's sakes. Like, honestly, that's a serious problem here. 20 points off turnovers for the Rockets. They had 14 fast break points. That's the same amount as we did. But, man, oh, man, Houston had 50 points in the paint as well. Shot 42% from three, while we shot 29%. A big Achilles heel with this team. You saw Battle and Dick come into this game. Grady played only 3 in the first half. Jamison came in the second, made a three-pointer. But at the end of the day, it's just like, it's not good enough, man. It just isn't good enough. You shoot 44% from the field. That's not good enough. 79% from free throws. That's not good enough as well. Guys, just another game where the Raptors go flat offensively in the fourth, only having 16 points in the fourth quarter alone. Like, come on, man. It's these type of games here that are a good test for the Raptors, and then you just say to yourself, they continue to fail all these tests all the time, and you even got teams like Philadelphia as well, who lost Maxey for 3 weeks. They're right there as well. They have the tiebreaker on us, so if we're close in the standings and the Raptors continue to lose these big games, this is going to be the biggest reason why this team failed this season when it came to positioning in the standings this year. It's really frustrating to say the least. You got to play New Orleans tomorrow night on the second night of a back-to-back. Brandon Ingram returns to New Orleans tonight. Hopefully he has a big game, because the last 3 games, like I mentioned, have not been good enough for him, so hopefully he plays better in that game tomorrow night. Then you got to come home and play the Pistons again. That's another problem on top of it all. You got another top 10 team in the NBA you got to play against, That's another issue on top of it also. Things don't get easier for this team, guys. Things are only going to get worse for the Raptors, because it's getting tighter. The pressure's mounting. The teams that they're playing are all going to be competing for play-ins or playoff spots. New Orleans game, the game against New Orleans tomorrow night, that's a massive, massive game. If you don't win that game tomorrow night, and they're a rested team, the Pelicans, they did not play tonight, the Raptors are in big trouble here, eh? They honestly are, man. They might be in 7th place by the weekend, for Christ's sakes. 6th or 7th place. So I am getting extremely concerned about where this Raptors team stands when it comes to the weekend. Honestly, guys, you had Scotty finishing off with 24. Quickly had 12, 3 of 9 shooting. Not a great game tonight for Emmanuel Quickly. Bia had 9 points on 3 of 12 shooting. Needs to be better. Of course, we all know how Brandon Ingram has been this year. He has been incredible for us this year, but this stretch of games has not been good for him, to say the least. Mamu had 8 points. Mamu obviously had some difficulties tonight. He had some fouls, a lot of fouls. He had like 4 fouls after 3 quarters, so he had some difficulties tonight in this game. Jacoby only had 6. Mobo had 2. Shed had 2. Battle had 3. Dick had 6. Martin had 2. So there you go, guys. The bench didn't do much, even though Houston doesn't have a great bench either. The Raptors bench didn't do much tonight. Their shooting woes continued again in the fourth quarter when they needed to shoot the most. Make some baskets to get back into this game. RJ led the way in scoring with 25, guys. Just another frustrating game tonight for the Raptors. Like I said, KD only had 7 in the second half, but it didn't matter. Jabari Smith had 23. Thompson had 23, so those guys were looking solid. Şengün had 14 and 12. And then, like I said, Houston's bench isn't great as well. Eason had 8. Shepard had 7. Finney Smith had 3. Capella had 4. And that was it. The rest of the guys had no points. So Houston, even though they're a solid team as well, having 40 wins this year, you're missing some guys like Van Vliet and Adams as well. But when you got a guy like Kevin Durant, Kevin Durant is Kevin Durant, 12 of 16 from the field, the guy's an absolute lethal shooter, for God's sakes, you know what I mean? So, love watching KD play, one of my favorite players in the NBA ever, just showing again tonight, that he is just an incredible player. At 37 years old, still doing what he's doing, man. I would have loved to have seen him on the Raptors before his career ended. It was always a dream of mine to see KD play for the Raptors. Obviously, it didn't work out, and the fit wasn't there, but he is such a great player. Showed it again tonight, leading the way for the Rockets. Raptors again struggling to close out a game, not having an opportunity to get over the hump and try to come back in a game against a top team in the NBA and finding way of getting a win. Teams are breathing down their neck now. You got a game against New Orleans tomorrow night, a massive, massive game tomorrow night for the Raptors if they want to stay in a playoff spot, guys, before they possibly put themselves in a play-in. So it's not looking good for the Raptors right now, guys. BI's on a bit of a slump right now. Raptors, Wolves continue, guys, being able to beat top 10 NBA teams. You know, it's getting really frustrating to say the least. We'll see how this team does tomorrow night against the Pelicans, guys. We'll love to hear your thoughts and opinions on this game tonight, guys. Like this video, subscribe if you guys want to see more content. Go Raptors, go as always, guys. See you guys on the next episode of Raptors Unfiltered. Ciao, guys.